Have you ever had a plan and all of a sudden your emotions hijacked that plan? It happens. Stay here. We'll talk about it today. Welcome to How to Get What You Want. This podcast is for driven women ready to claim their goals and navigate their careers with clarity and confidence. Join me as we explore real stories, tools, and strategies to help you steer your career exactly where you want to go. Let's get started on helping you get what you want. Hey, friend, welcome. I'm so happy that you chose to be with me today because without you, I would just be talking to myself. So, thank you for tuning in. I always try to find topics that get me excited and passionate. And I really love this whole idea of a negotiator mindset. And one of the things is great negotiators have to have clarity and they have to have a plan in order to drive that clarity so they can think clearly. Do you know what gets in our way? Our emotions. So often, the thing that is most destructive to our plan is us. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's what I want to talk about today. I mean, there is a truckload of research that talks about this. And I have some pulled up because I really wanted to really think about that. I mean, emotions, any kind of emotion, it could be surprise, happiness, joy, anger, fear, all of those can cause our brain to get foggy. Any emotion, even happiness. When we're even elated about something, we don't look at the decision critically. We are more likely to go quickly. And so when we have these emotions, it distorts our ability to interpret, to make a decision, to think about our options. Emotions kind of zoom us in, give us a scarcity mindset that only allows us to focus on something and not the whole picture. So having objectivity allows us to zoom out. Under stress, and we have pressure and stress all day long. You might not even realize how much stress is happening to you. I certainly don't some days. When that happens, pressure can prioritize speed over accuracy. So we make snap decisions, our attention narrows, and we fill gaps with assumptions, right? Haven't we all done that? Assumptions like how people are interpreting things or that this isn't the right time. Some assumptions that get in our way. Do you know there's research, Zerks Dodson looked at where we're most productive. And when we don't have a lot going on, kind of that left side of their grid, we don't get things done. We're lackadaisical because there's not a lot going on. And then on the right side of that grid, that the curve that they have, it's burnout because there's too much going on. So right in the middle of that curve, you can picture a curve of on the left is you don't have a lot to do, and on the right you have too much to do. Well, right in the middle is where your brain really clicks the best. It likes to have a little bit of tension, but not too much. And so when you think about that in performance, if we're over to the right too much, our burnout causes us to have a lack of clarity. When we think about when we're under pressure, under stress, we just want to get things done. We'll sometimes take things off of our list out of just sheer wanting to get them off. So these strong emotions bring us into fight or flight. We don't think, we just want to get out. We don't want to write it out. We just want to get out. So what happens is we have these high stakes situations and we think that things are going to go terribly wrong. So we start to say, oh, this is over. This is done. They're not happy with me. I'm never going to get this. Or we start to mind read, or we believe that we understand what people are thinking. She hates this idea. They don't want this. And then the other thing is confirmation bias. We get fearful. So if it doesn't match what we believe, then we don't believe it. And so there's so much that goes on. Like we don't just get cloudy. I want to make this point around pressure and stress and the way we interpret. Emotions distort. So when you think about the lens we look through, the distortion is It could be color, it could be, like, lack of focus, it could be zoomed in. Think about it as a lens that needs to be cleaned off. You have to get objective to really get clarity, and so that's what negotiators do really well. They at least understand that these emotions are a part of the equation, and so when it's a part of the equation, they have to find clarity so that they can be as effective in the moment as they can. They can have a plan, and they know that when it's high stakes for them, when they're nervous, when they know they have a lot at stake, they know that they have to stay as objective as possible so that they can separate feelings from facts and that they can frame with influence and confidence. Because part of leverage is having the ability to stay calm under pressure. That alone signals confidence to the other side, which in and of itself is leverage. So emotions decrease our ability to have leverage and our ability to be effective and strong and confident and clear. And so it's so important to realize that. And so what I talk to teams about in individuals is even being able to say, all right, wow, I have these emotions going on. This is high stakes for me. Being able to identify that and label it so that you know that you are being triggered by emotions. And knowing that this research proves that it distorts the way you're going to interpret or the way you're going to move through. So just accept that fact. We're not going to get rid of our emotions. When I know that I'm trying to face something that's going to make me nervous, I anticipate that I'm going to have them so that in that moment I can go, all right, there's that doubt that I was going to have that's starting to tell me in my head, it's not the right time. I shouldn't do this. They're going to be mad. This is unexpected to them. And it makes me want to retreat. It takes away my power. And so when I feel that doubt coming, I recognize it instead of being controlled by it. And I say, okay, there it is. My plan was I'm going to continue to move forward. I'm going to continue to move through. I'm not going to dilute my ask. I'm not going to retreat and not do it. I'm going to still walk through that door. And so what I try to do is visualize those emotions going to my body, pushing them down out of my head so that hopefully I can get clarity. I have so many examples about how emotions hijacked my ability to be at my best. I remember going into a negotiation where I was really ready. I had all of the things I needed. I felt really confident about it. And then right before I went in, somebody goes, they told me, oh, the person that I'm negotiating with can be a real jerk. And he can yell and get really angry. And it made me really nervous. And so I walked in completely scattered and unsure and anticipating this reaction that I was going to get. So I started going into it and I didn't see signs of it yet, but I still anticipated that was coming. I didn't make good points. I didn't listen very well. I remember that this gentleman was being really like collaborative and open, but because I was given this little piece of data that it was going to go south, I anticipated it and I was emotional about it. So I wasn't able to self-adjust in the moment to go, this isn't happening, or wait until it happens before you allow yourself to adjust your approach. And it really got me off guard. I think I made a really bad impression on him. Like I didn't build the relationship because I was more in my head than connecting in the moment because I was waiting for this, anticipating this, and it triggered all the emotions that I hadn't anticipated. And because I wasn't planning for that, I was completely caught off guard. Emotions get in our way. And even if in the moments when you're in a meeting and things are going really well, and then I always use this example. Say you're in your staff meeting with your team and it's really exciting. You're talking about the weekend, you're going through the things that everybody needs to get done and updates are happening. And then all of a sudden a senior person walks in the room and just sits down and doesn't say anything. Somebody that you don't know very well, that you maybe don't trust, all of a sudden this low stakes situation becomes high stakes just like that. And you might start thinking, you're clicking into why are they here? What's going on? They're not saying anything. What is happening? Are they getting rid of me? Did they get information? And you start to conjure up this this other narrative because our brain, when there's emotion involved, wants to reconcile what's going on. And so we believe, like I said in that research, that we believe that we want to kind of complete the circle. What's going on here? And we're not always right. So we need to have the ability to pull out and be able to understand what the difference is between our facts and our feeling. Like, just because somebody looked at their watch doesn't mean they're not connected in. They're not paying attention, they don't care. But we might believe that when we're in a high emotion state. But we need to be able to say, maybe they just looked at it because their watch came up and told them to stand, like just a silly notification. So we need to make sure that our mind doesn't try to fill in the blanks because that can be really dangerous. So I want you to really think about when you get in a situation that emotions are triggered, what are you going to do? So the first thing you might think about is what can you do to control that? We can first see and feel that our body is having an emotional reaction. So that's good. When you feel your heart racing, when you all of a sudden get that pit in your stomach, maybe your breathing is becoming labored, being able to go, all right, give myself a second. Do I need to breathe in 3 times slowly? Physically let your shoulders go down. And then secondarily to that, once you realize that trigger, being able to label it and saying, oh, interesting. I'm going into this. I'm nervous because I don't know this person. I'm worried because I didn't realize that 2 more people are going to be here and I hadn't anticipated that. Maybe you're not feeling that well, so you can't think clearly, and that's making you nervous. So being able to label what it is so that you can at least then say, all right, I understand that that's a parameter or a piece of the puzzle that I'm not going to be able to change. So I need to work with that. It's like that story I said when I was anticipating a response, if I had been prepared for it and somebody would have told me that before and I solved for that, I may know it's going to come up. And then when it does, because I was ready for it, I could have said, hey, listen, you sound like you're really getting aggravated. Do we need to take some time off? Do we need to take a break? So it's not labeling their emotion, but it's being ready for that in the moment so that you know what you're going to do so you don't get hijacked by being unable to maneuver because you're so clouded. So that's the first one, is to really feel it and decide what can you do. So you need to pre-decide what is the thing that you, when you get triggered, can you identify and what can you do? The next thing that I really like to do is think about in the moment what that other person needs. I always talk about understanding the interests of the other party before you go in. That's a great best practice because it gets you geared to the way they're thinking. And when your emotions get involved, you stay in your head. You're calculating and making those judgments. You're spending a lot of time. Think about it. It gets really noisy. So what you're doing is you're having a conversation with yourself. So what you want to do in the moment is get yourself out of your head and think, interesting, why are they asking me this question? Do I need to give them more information? What else do I need to tell them? Do I need to reframe that for them? And then start asking yourself, okay, what do I need to adjust so that they have a deeper understanding of what I need? And what do I need to help them understand? Either through asking them questions to see where they are, or being really intentional about when they ask questions to say, interesting, why did they ask me that? And then the last part is to be just really clear about when you get closer to an answer, or when you know your goal is and you attain it, that's when you know you need to say, okay, this is great. We have an agreement, or this, I'm glad we have this understanding. And that way you can close and reiterate what the agreement was. So the tip is to get out of your head and really be in the moment, be in the room. Be real intentional to listen, to understand, and see how you guide them through. How do you reframe so you can continue to adjust their perspective to get you to the end? So what I want you to do this week is really think about your emotions, be heightenedly aware of stress and pressure and different personalities and different places where you go in and you realize that you suddenly feel emotional, and be able to identify that moment and think about what is triggering that. Inexperience? Is it not understanding what to do? Maybe you're even not prepared. What is triggering you in that moment? And start to think about, how can I adjust that? Because in that moment, when something goes from low stakes to high stakes, just like that, you want to be able to build the muscle to identify, adjust whatever way you need to, and get as much clarity as you can. You're not going to take away the emotions. We're emotional beings, but realize that emotions are on a continuum. And so there's all sorts of emotion. It's not just joy and frustration or anger and happiness. It's a real broad view of a lot of things that can get in our way. It's really important to not just ignore them, but to understand how you can move through. There's a lot to think about. I want you to be aware of you. Be an observer of yourself and see what is triggering you. What is that? Who is that? And maybe there's trends too that you can identify so that you are more mindful in the moment and you're building that muscle to be able to be emotionally agile, because that's what it's all about. As we go up in the organization, our ability to be able to be agile is expected, and emotions are not accepted. So it's important to hone those early and really understand that it only helps you to regain and keep that clarity and objectivity whenever you can. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me. Go to negotiationlove.com. Join our network of people that want to actively raise their hand to get what they want, to not just show up, but to be seen. And remember that it's not just a skill. Negotiation is a mindset. Until next time, I'm Susie. I will see you then.